You know when this feeling right, right. It must be Angie on the mic.
Hey, Lloyd, I feel like we've been spending the last couple days together just hitting up these schools, and I feel like we went on a mini tour here in the DMV.
Yeah, we kind of did, didn't we?
Yeah, but it was like a tour with a purpose. And, the funny thing is when we first, they told me, it was like, Lloyd's going to come into the market, he's going to come into the DMV, and we're going to bring him to these different schools. And somebody said, well, how old are the kids? How old are the students? Like high school. And they're like, well, someone said, well, will they know certain songs that Lloyd does? I said, well, the beauty of Lloyd is that he consistently has made hit records at different time periods in people's lives. So there are a lot of people that, depending on your age, you can attach to a Lloyd record. Like right now, anybody between, I'd say, because what did we meet? Kids that were about 14 students?
Yeah.
It was like 14 to 17, right? So 14 to 17, and when you came out and you did True, everybody in the audience sang it with you.
Eyes closed.
Yes.
Phones up.
Yes. But then we have some of our like Bacon Bears crew, the 24, the 23s and older, 21 to 25. They're on. They might know she's 5'2" or 5'2". That's what they say. That's what everybody wants to know. And then in my generation, 25, 30 and older, we could go way back. Like we could
Southside.
Yes. Me on the south side. Like, I mean, you literally have, at this point, can you believe you spanned it multiple generations and that you can still go out, whether it's a high school, a club, a festival, and people are going to be attached to your music.
I wish I could take all the credit. I really do. I mean,
why can't you?
Because it's really just not me by myself that has allowed me to have these opportunities of longevity, and the music, being able to sustain is a reflection of God bringing in the right people at the right times. I'm just really like a reflection of my life in a lot of ways. I mean, I've always recorded under my real name. So it's always felt to me like an extension of my real life. So anytime I come to do radio, since I've known you, it's kind of personal for me. Anytime I speak to kids at a school, it feel personal to me. So it's hard for me to take my heart out of it in a lot of ways, and just kind of, I guess, look at it as a job. And I think that's, for me, I would accredit that to given the music its sound over the time. I definitely would have never put out a True if my life didn't lead me to that point. And also if I didn't have compassion for what other people go through in their lives, for respecting what has happened to me in my life, and what that means, not as a failure or a loss or something you can't get something back from. It's always like these lessons and these blessings, and just learning how to count them. Also having patience, throughout it all. Just really having the patience to, wait my turn, to speak. Also in respecting the power of vocabulary. So when I do speak, knowing what I want to say and what it should mean, what I want it to mean. And I think it's funny to see younger kids like that recite a song that is reflective of such a grown human experience.
Right.
Stuff that real grown-ups go through, which is where I'm at with it. But, when I was younger, I was faced with a lot at a very early age. Lost my dad when I was 2. Pretty much started to take care of became the head of the family when I was a teenager. Got in some trouble with the law when I was a teenager. Music saved me in a lot of ways. So I think that they kind of are a reflection of me when I was their age in a lot of ways. And they also dealing with personal things, some people depressed, some people insecure, some people don't know where they fit in life. School is really a big, I guess, fashion show for a lot of people sometimes, and sometimes that ain't really what you want to define you, is what's on the outside. But it's hard for another kid to sometimes give you that time conversation to really know about you. So what I wanted to do with my a little downtime was to go visit them, I talked about respect, acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
self-love,
Mm-hmm.
and compassion for others. And I think it was just something, hopefully, that set with him.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it feeds your soul too. Like I feel like I could see
That's the
the
greatest-
energy being
The
reciprocated.
greatest gift is
Mhm.
giving.
Yeah,
By far. It's it's one of the dopest things about life is when you give something to someone else and you get something from giving them something.
absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know you're a father now.
Yes.
So I seen your songwriting has grown
Yeah.
amazingly
Thank you.
since that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you feel like is that a conscious decision that you make sure like, yo, I need to make sure I say something because I know I'm leaving a legacy now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of a few things. One being the legacy I leave.
Mhm.
Two being the fact that it's fickle. It's
Yeah, this
it's
industry.
uncertain.
Yeah, this industry.
Not
yeah,
not
you
the
know?
industry.
Okay.
Forget the industry. Life is
Oh, okay.
fickle. It's uncertain. It's fragile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You hear one day, next day something else is going on. What if one day I always would think, man, what if I ever lost my voice
Mm.
and I couldn't speak or I couldn't sing? How would I feel then? And then what about all the things I did when I had that blessing? Was it really, out of appreciation for that? So that also traveling back in time during my days away from music, bumping old vinyl, listening to a lot of musicians, buying my first jazz records, buying Fela Kuti records, buying Marvin Gaye, listening to Bill Withers live, listening to Bob Dylan for the first time, listening to Stevie and James Brown for some of their music for the first time, Nina Simone for the first time, all these first time experiences that I had with music. And it wasn't until I really kind of got into that I started to think about how shallow I could be sometime, how afraid I could be, shallow with the content, afraid of picking up an instrument and failing or not being as good as them or the people like a Prince. You see Prince play a solo, then it's like, God, I can't. I'm supposed to do that. I could never. That kind of thing. So just eliminating that insecurity about instruments for me, picking up my guitar, and my children. I think you kind of start to see how things come around. You see your reflection in them. And then it's like, well, I know that one day they're going to ask these questions. They're going to know about what daddy was doing with his time, like to see what am I supposed to do with my time when I'm this age. So I think that and definitely just gaining an appreciation through traveling the world for each individual, through doing something I love for so long, respecting each individual that I come across, and just kind of seeing the value in them and wanting the music to reflect all of those things. Yeah.
When did you start learning the guitar?
I bought my first guitar during the King of Hearts album, and then I toured for about half a year, and I left it alone.
Okay.
And then I got back home and I realized I had bought the wrong kind of guitar. I bought a classical guitar, which has a really wide neck, and it's kind of hard to learn on. So then I went and bought another guitar, and then I started learning on that. And I just played it, on and off for a long time. And so that would have been at least seven years ago.
Okay.
Yep. And then it wasn't until I think a few years later that I actually was able to start creating my own songs around the
With
guitar.
the guitar, okay.
Yeah, and that's really what the whole album is me and the guitar at first, and then building around that. And I do all the instrumentation, or at least good 70% of the instrumentation on the album, produced all the tracks.
Nice.
Wrote 90% of the album, and chose all the features for certain reasons. So
did you choose the visual as well? Because I remember seeing the pictures of you with the guitar and no clothes.
Yeah, that was all. I did all the artistic direction for
That's,
the album.
you said this is what I wanted. What was the idea behind that? Because I know when I saw it, I was like, oh, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made you say, you know, we're going to go butt naked in the woods with the guitar?
I think it was just
take the picture.
It was really my approach to stripping down my life. You know, it was like The Power of the One Thing was a book that I started reading, and it talked about how when you eliminate a lot of extra things, then you focus on this one thing that defines you the most. It's that kind of thing. And with the music, it was stripping away a lot of, you know, the things that disguise my flaws, like auto-tune, like, you know, a lot of digital sounds. And then it led to, I think, how would I showcase this visually? And I was like, you know what? I also don't want to have auto-tune, you know, in my appearance. I don't want, you know, my clothes to be a cloak. I want to shed that. I don't want to have fear. I don't want to move in this world with fear. And I love myself so much that regardless of what, you know, someone may say when they see it, I know what it means for me to be able to accept myself like this.
Wow.
You know, and hopefully it would encourage someone else to feel the same about them. So all those things, I think, led me to that day in the forest, you know. And I actually did the same shoot for the True EP with the waterfall,
right,
and the LP, which came out in August.
Always wondered too, when you started recording the True album, what was one of the first records that you recorded that like made you start to like really?
First record was True.
Okay, that was the
very
first.
first.
Started
The very first thing I did when I got back in the studio after years of kind of staying away on purpose was True. You know, the first things that I wrote that came out was, "Hey world, I know it's been a while. Just thought I'd come around, let you know what's up now." And then I built from there. And that's why also I named it True. It just kind of defined the process.
It felt that way. Like that's what I was saying. Like it felt, that song felt like almost like a new beginning for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And I feel like you do. You kind of like, you come in and then you kind of fall back a little bit, and then you come in, you fall back. This time around, when you like you said, you chose to kind of stay away. What made you want to stay away? I mean, you gotta think, you do songs with the biggest artists right now. I mean, from Lil Wayne to, I mean, you've done all these major songs and you've worked with all these major people, and you have an incredible catalog. What makes you say, you know, I need to step away from this? Is it something personal, or is it something within the business that made you want to just kind of take a break from it all? I mean, we kind of get it in True, right? Like True, you kind of break it down.
Well, you know, how long have I known you? I mean, let alone before that, being in it. So it's pretty much been more than half of my life has been spent in front of a camera, or on a stage, or on an airplane, or I think I've spent more nights in a hotel than in my actual bed. So just missing those things, the warmth that home brings, wanting to spend time with my family, you know, feeling like I would come home and I would have all these great experiences, but I didn't have the experiences with them. So then it was like, well, now I want to create those experiences with the people who are in my close circle,
right?
You know, so going home to do that, helping my sister with medical school, you know, finish that, and supporting her when she was on her single parent. Spending a lot of time with my niece to make sure she knew how dope she was. You know, waking up with her, dancing every morning, eating breakfast together, that kind of stuff. Going to the park together, riding our bikes together. That. I did a lot of physical fitness when I was gone. I was riding my bike 20 miles. I was training for a marathon. At one point, I was up to about 12 miles.
Wow.
And then became a father.
Yeah.
You know, and then that just fattened me right back up. You know what I'm saying?
Where? Okay.
Yeah, it's in there. It's in there. Yeah. This whole time I've been dreaming about cake and ice cream and shit. No, you know that. And then there was a moment where I was scared to leave my kid. It's like, not scared, but I couldn't pull myself away.
Yeah.
You know, and this was after Truth came out. It was like, okay, now it's time to promote and tour again. But now I was like, no, I want to be here with him, you know?
Yeah.
So it was that.
You got off Instagram for a second during that time, didn't you?
Huh?
You got off Instagram for a
Yeah, I
second during
did.
that time.
I just
I remember that.
eliminated any distractions. And then also I think just having to power up. You know, you got to power up, you know, when you really plan on coming back strong.
Yeah.
You don't want to come back with half power. You want to make sure you at max power. So just taking some time out to gather my thoughts, sucking at an instrument for a long time. But I knew that I had to do something, I think, more progressive than my other music. I didn't want to come out with the same sound.
Right.
And then also just playing hopscotch. I think, you know, realizing that these wasn't my waves. You know what I mean? There was a lot of waves that was coming at me, and I was real tempted. I was standing on the beach with my surfboard, and I was like, oh, I'm going to catch that wave.
Yeah.
Okay, what about that wave?
Yeah.
I should catch that wave. But then I waited, and then no one else was on that beach that I was standing on no more, you know, which was a beach about realism, about truth, about honesty. And then it was like, you know what? Now I can ride my own wave. And I think that's just more defining. So I would rather take, you know, 2 years and come out with something that lasted 10 than to come out with something every 6 months that in 10 years it was like, what was that? What did that really mean for me?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Lloyd, I mean, you know, your story is always incredible. Your energy is awesome. One of the things I loved about going to the schools, you talked, when we went to Suitland, you said you got your first record deal at 10.
Yeah, I did.
10 years old. And that, you know, when you're saying like you spent half your life in front of stages and on hotels and things like that, like how does one though say, you know what, I need a break from it? Because sometimes, like, I think a lot of us, sometimes we get stuck in what we know, because it's like that's all you know. That's something you know, I can imagine at 10 getting a record deal, how excited you must have been, how hard you must have worked, and then how hard you have to work to stay in the industry, right? But I also understand that feeling of, okay, I've been doing this forever, right? And it's like, I need to stop. But how do you just tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna stop? Like, I get how you know, your family is your motivation. But for a lot of people, you think, okay, this is also my moneymaker. This is how I make my living. I'm gonna put this to the side and, you know, and be with the family. But how were you able to kind of just
Counting my blessings was one of them. Eliminating fear out of my life in a lot of ways was another. You know, there's the fear of flying and there's the fear of falling. There's all these fears that culminate into stagnation in a person's life. And for me, you know, eliminating the fear of, well, what will happen if I take a break? You know, will I still be able to come back?
Right.
All these new fans,
Right.
how will they view me? That kind of thing. I eliminated that early. And then with the whole, you know, doing it, you know, your moneymaker, I can honestly say that the reason why I'm really still able to do it is because it's never been about that. And it never really will be about that. The day that it's about just the money is the day that I got to really stop doing it forever. When I was 10, I didn't sign a deal thinking I'm about to get rich.
Right.
I signed it thinking I'm about to be like Michael Jackson and I'm about to be performing and having fun and, you know, making music, my dreams. And it's always been about that for me. Always been about that. There was only one moment in my life where I ever did something with my music for financial reason, and that was after Hurricane Katrina hit and family was, you know what I mean, like just down and out. And I had to make a move. Irv was in a federal trial, so all the assets was frozen, and there was no way for me to get my music out besides leaking it myself. And that's the only time I ever did something thinking I gotta make a move. You know what I mean? My people depending on it, and that was you with Lil Wayne, which is what they ask me about every day now. 5'2" or 5'2",
right.
you know. But never ever did it because of the money. In fact, my last deal was an independent deal, and I don't look for like advances, and I just want to put into it, you know, to get it back on the back end that kind of deal. So, yeah.
Just creating, man, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And Lloyd, again, they're telling us we got to wrap up, so we're gonna wrap up with just your message that you left to the students. I want you to kind of leave that message for our listeners. Which,
Yes.
Again, when you stood before the students, you talked about 3 things that you said were very important, and you said belief was one, compassion was the other, and acceptance.
Yeah,
and you kind of had
we
them say
switched
over
it
and
up this morning. This morning it was respect,
over.
acceptance, and self-love. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So when I get in there, I ask all the kids to lock arms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we be in our own
Yeah.
little zone, our own world. We don't want to
Playing
really
too cool.
we don't really want to connect with nobody. So I'm like, if they would lock arms. And what was dope is everybody did it.
Yeah.
You know, even the kids that was off to the side, they came
still
over
did
and
it.
was like, at least put a hand on somebody. And they all locked in. And then I say, everybody look to the left. Say, I respect you. Look to the right. Say, I accept you. And then look, I said, then take your hand, put it over your own heart. Say, I love you. Talk to yourself. So, yeah, that's pretty much what it's been like. And then I play a little number.
Yeah.
And then I get
With
up
the
out of there.
guitar.
Yeah, then I skedaddle up out of
Good
there.
hit record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play a little hit real quick. Let me give y'all a quick hit. And everybody sings along. And then
Yeah.
you're like, all right, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's highly effective. It's a lot of fun. I
Yes.
appreciate you for letting us tag along with you to see it and to be a part of it. We appreciate you for coming to the schools. And, of course, Caramel is the song that we are playing right now that we love.
Yeah, one of the first in the country
Yes. We had
to play it. Yeah.
We're always, we
Big
love
shout out.
Lloyd. We
Yeah.
love
Yes.
Lloyd. And it was important to support, of course, J1. That's our guy.
J1.
That's
Since day one.
our program
You
director.
need to change his name to Day One.
Day one.
Yeah, 'cause
Day
that's,
one.
that's
J1.
what he
I
been.
heard you got some
One
stories.
rider.
Heard you got some stories.
Well,
with
no,
Jay.
I mean it's just like, man, Jay this is not something that came overnight.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Really grinded it out to get where he at.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And with that kind of mentality and that passion for it,
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna stay in that position. He's gonna keep rising,
Keep going.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
he got a lot of love for people. He's a big music fan,
Yes.
and it shows. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Yeah. He put it out. Said, Caramel, let me check that out. And first time I heard it, I was like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
keep making your music. Let everybody know how we can continue to follow your movement and your music and get it and support it.
Yeah, Instagram curly headed black boy.
Shout out to
Twitter
Aladdin, too.
Lloyd_YG. Yeah, that was funny. Apple Music, you can find me on all the streaming platforms: Tidal, Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. And man, I'll be back real soon with something new.
There it is. Lloyd on 93.9 WKYS.
You know when it's
Awesome.
feeling right, right.